Shalom Aleichem. Even though usually my Daf Yomi recordings are in Yiddish or English, since today Daf Yomi is starting Perek Eilu Treifos, I thought it would be helpful to do an English language recording because I see a certain, what I believe to be a little bit of a gap in the market. There's tons of amazing sfurim and tons of amazing videos and tons of amazing animations that show what an animal looks like on the inside. But it's always a challenge to be able to create in a person's mind a picture and an understanding of something complicated using audio only. There are many people who want to hear these kind of shirim on the go or on the phone, and for them the best mode, the best modality of getting information is the audio one, getting things in audio. So b'siyata deshmaya, I'd like to try to make this shir in English, and hopefully b'siyata deshmaya it will be helpful to people. I once heard from a Malamed that one of the reasons why, when you learn with a child, the minig is to start with Vayikru. Vayikru seems very complicated, Karbunas. Why don't you start with something easier? So he told me that when a child is young, they have a very good imagination. And as they grow older, their imagination gets more dulled because as they go to school and as they interact with other people, and as someone explains to them that when you color a tree, the leaves are supposed to be green and the trunk is supposed to be brown and the water is supposed to be blue and the sun is supposed to be yellow. They become more and more conforming, and with conformance comes less imagination. So we start children when they're very little with karbuna, since at the moment, Leider, we don't have a Besamigdish, and therefore we start by giving them stuff that they need a very good imagination to understand. And when they get older, we explain to them about a sukkah and a sukkah on a boat and a sukkah on the back of a camel and so on and so forth. So what's very helpful is if you take your imagination and you try to imagine in your mind's eye a cow. That's not so hard. Everyone knows what a cow looks like. You're looking at a cow. You're looking at the cow from the side. So you can see the eye, you can see the tail. You're standing on the side of the cow and you're looking at the cow. Now take your hand and put your hand on the neck of the cow, where his beard would be. Put your hand on his neck, and under your hand, in that neck, as you slide down the neck, there are two pipes that are running from the mouth into the base of the animal. There's two tubes, and this is the most important thing. Humans obviously also have a windpipe and a food pipe, as does a cow. And when you feel these two pipes, you're feeling the kuna, which is the windpipe. It's also called the gageris. If now, as you're listening to this, you swallow some saliva in your mouth or you swallow a drink, when you don't think about it, you think it's going down the center of your neck. But when you think about it, you realize it's going down on the side because there's two pipes in the neck. One is the food pipe and one is the windpipe. And when you take a drink, you swallow, you're essentially moving stuff through the food pipe, which is not in the center, it's on one of the sides. And as you swallow, you can feel it's going down the side of your own neck. Now, if you've ever seen how they install a central air conditioning system, or you've ever been in a tent outside where they have these expandable, like they have a washing machine vent, these like coiled, ridged tubes that the wind goes through, that the air goes through, that is a little bit what a windpipe looks like. It's like a pipe that has a bunch of ridges as you go down the pipe, like a vacuum cleaner pipe. So the pipe that carries air, the same way it carries air out of the dryer, or it carries air conditioning, cold air piped into a tent, that pipe that you have in yourself and that a cow has is the windpipe, and it kind of looks like that. Next to it is another pipe. This pipe is the Veshit, the food pipe. It's soft, and food goes down that pipe. So the windpipe is more of a hard pipe with ridges that is for air, like we just discussed, like the pipe that comes out of your dryer, the vent. And the food pipe is a softer, smoother pipe. And the reason that I'm not going into where the pipe is it parallel with it, is it behind it, is because as the cow, as you go down the cow the pipe actually moves, meaning to say, it like depends from which angle you're looking at it or from which part of the animal you're looking at it. If you were to slice an animal, chop the head off at one point, you would see it in a certain place, and if you chopped it further towards the legs, you would see it in a different place. So it doesn't matter right now exactly if it's behind it or next to it. The point is, it's two pipes. The smooth one is for food, the ribbed one is for air. So now, taking you back to your imagination as you feel the cow's neck going down, the neck has bones, neck bones, and where the neck bones finish, that's where the spine starts. So now, take your hand and take it out from under the animal, under the neck, and now put it on top of the animal. And now run from the top of the animal, from the animal's chup, all the way to the tail. As you feel the bone that you're feeling as you're going along the path with the ups and downs from the top of the head all the way to the tail, that whole bone that you feel, that is the spine of the animal, the shedra of the animal. It runs from the beginning, from the neck, all the way to the tail. It's like a spine of a person. It's a bunch of bones that kind of connect to each other, like a puzzle, like a choo-choo train. Part of the spine that goes from the beginning to the end. Now, the spine is a bunch of bones, but in the spine, there is a wire that goes like a necklace, like a bunch of, like a chain necklace, like a bunch of beads on a necklace. And that thing is called the spinal cord. The spinal cord comes from the head, goes through the spine all the way, and ends near the tail. The bone that we just discussed, the spine, is the shedra, and this cord that sits in it is called the chita shedra. So the spine is on the outside, and the cord is on the inside, a little bit like when they're building here in Yerushalayim, you see they put a pipe, and in the pipe they put cables. So it's not just cables sitting underground, there's like a vacuum, there's like a pipe that they put, and then they put the cords going through the pipe. That would be like the bone, and inside the bone you have a cord, a wire. So every bone in an animal is a bone, but the spinal cord is not just a bone, it has this wire inside, and from this cord, at every rib of the animal, there's like branches, like a tree has branches and smaller branches, and something comes through that wire that's going across the top of the animal, and it's giving nourishment to every part of the animal. So every rib, it has like a little driveway, a little exit, and it sends to the animal nutrition, whatever the animal needs to stay alive. It's providing the sustenance to the different organs that they need to survive. So, if an animal breaks a bone, the animal could still stay alive. A broken bone, just like a person, the havdil, could break a bone and stay alive. But if the spinal cord gets cut, nebuch, it's a ganze andere Meise. Obviously, it's a very different situation and very hard to survive that. We'll see. So now that you've felt the neck, and now that you've felt the top of the animal from the top of the head until the tail, now you have the chest of the animal. So, there's ribs around the chest. When an animal is not super duper fat, you can see the ribs of the animal. On a cow, there's 13 ribs on each side of the animal. They start from the breast of the animal and they curve back. That protection, those ribs, which are on both sides, like by a human, is called the rib cage. The rib cage is a cage, like a cage made with metal bars. It's a cage protecting, like a basket that sits and envelopes and protects the stuff that's inside it. Inside that basket, if it was a car or a boat, we would call it the engine room. Dort liegt the main systems of the animal, and the Eibishter made that in order that those systems should stay protected, they're covered by a rib cage. When a person, needs open heart surgery, at least when I was a kid, I remember them saying how many ribs they had to break to get to the heart because it's covered by the rib cage. So what is in the engine room of an animal? Mainly two things, as you probably know, the heart and the lungs. The heart is the pump. It sits in the middle and it pumps blood through the body, and the lungs on both sides are the breathing bags. Lungs are called rayas. The heart is the lev, and both sit inside this protective cage called the rib cage. But if you feel the animal, you'll feel that at some point the ribs stop and the animal keeps going. Part of the way down, again, there's a rib, a rib, a rib, and then it stops. The place where it stops, that's just soft meat. There's no bones, it's just soft meat. That's the belly of the animal. So if we take the skin off an animal and you look at it, you'll see ribs going from the front of the animal, part of the way down the animal, and then it stops. We'll see soon why this is important. Now we're going to take the stomach of the animal and we're going to take it out of the animal. We're going to cut it open and we're going to look inside the stomach of the animal. So we know that a kushra animal is malagaira. It chews its cud. It eats, it chews it, swallows it, goes into the stomach. Then the animal brings it up again, chews it a second time, and swallows it again. So a human being thinks about that and thinks that sounds disgusting. It goes into the stomach and it comes back. You chew again. It's like, I don't know, like a person with vomit, and then swallows it again. What's going on here? The answer is that a cow has four stomachs. It's not like a person that when they swallow and then if they bring it up and they would swallow again, it would go to the same place. It's going into a different stomach. So the main big holding tank stomach is called the keres. It's a big, big stomach, a big, big briefcase, a big pouch that takes in the food. That's one stomach. Then there's a stomach called the bais hakoisos. That stomach, inside it, it looks like a honeycomb, where bees put their honey, or the honeycomb cereal, that type of pattern. That's called in English the reticulum. The keres is the rumen. You don't have to remember all these names. The bais hakoisos is the reticulum. Then there is the hamasais. Hamasais is a stomach that's full of layers, like folded on top of the other, like a book, like a bunch of folded pages of a book. In English, that's called, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, the omasum. And then there is the what we would call the real stomach, the kaivu, which is the one that actually digests the food of the cow, the way our stomach works when we swallow food. That is the kaivu abomasum in English. So there's four chambers, four stomachs, keres, baisakoisis, hamasais, and kaivu. And this is not something that science says different than as we know from Chazal. This is clear science. Every farmer you meet is maskim that there are four stomachs, and this is how it works. Going after the stomach, the four stomachs, the food moves on into the kishkas, the intestines of the animal. The dakyan, it's called dak because it's thin, is the thin intestine, the small intestine, long winding thin tube that continues after the stomach. Other parts of the animal that we have to mention before we go into the cases is versteitzich. The animal has a liver, which is a big thing, the kuvite, which sits near the stomach. Hanging on the liver is a little sac called a muru. Bitter viagal in Yiddish. It's the gall bladder that holds a bitter fluid inside. Then there's the spleen. The Gemara is going to talk more about the spleen, tuchel, and that is basically the animal as we have to think about it, as is necessary to talk about the different treifos that are in an animal. So just to put Humpty Dumpty back together again, to review the animal in your head, let's go through the whole animal quickly. 1, 2, 3, go. There's a head, then there's a neck. In the neck, there's two pipes. One pipe for air that looks like a dryer vent. It's ribbed. And the other pipe is a glatt pipe, a smooth pipe for food. From the animal on top all the way down, there is a spine running the length from the neck all the way to the tail. Inside the spine, there's a cable. That cable is called the spinal cord. In the front of the animal, after the neck, you have the rib cage. Inside the rib cage, which is a basket to protect, you have the heart and the lungs. Then you have the belly wall. In the front, it's bony because there's ribs, and in the back, it's just soft meat because there are no ribs. There's four stomachs, and then there is the little thin intestine, the liver. On the liver hangs the gallbladder and the spleen. So hopefully, b'siyata deshmaya, you now have in your head, in your own imagination, without any diagrams, you know what an animal looks like. And now, when you go into the Mishnah, you can really understand what you're talking about because you have the animal pictured, hopefully properly in your head, b'siyata deshmaya. I hope you enjoyed this. If you found this valuable, I would love feedback. Best way to send feedback is either by email, rebissamar, rebissamar @gmail.com, or you can leave a message at 718-2121-345. Thank you so much. Kol tiv, tzlacha.